A duffel bag stuffed with cartel cash disappears into the VIP suites of Nevada's most luxurious casino, and no one asks questions. Authorities later seize $130 million from Wynn, Las Vegas. But the real story is how a global laundering machine operated in plain sight, blending elite Chinese demand with cartel supply. How does a place built for wealth and glamour quietly become a pipeline for dirty money? The answer begins where the official story ends. By the late 2000s, China had drawn a hard line around its money. New rules capped how much any individual could legally move out of the country each year. Just $50,000, regardless of wealth. For most people, that limit was more than enough. But for China's elite, it was a wall. They wanted United States real estate, overseas investments, and safety nets far beyond what the law allowed. The appetite for foreign assets exploded, yet every official channel hit the same ceiling. Underground networks stepped in to fill the gap. These intermediaries offered a simple secret trade. Deposit yuan inside China, receive dollars in the United States. No paperwork, no questions, no trail. The demand was relentless. For wealthy clients, Las Vegas was not just a playground, it was a gateway. Casino chips could turn anonymous cash into documented winnings, and the right connections could make millions move without a trace. This hunger for offshore dollars set the stage for a global shadow market, waiting for anyone bold enough to supply the cash. In warehouses and safe houses across border cities, cartel couriers stacked mountains of cash, bundles of 20s and 100s, shrink-wrapped and hidden from law enforcement. Moving that money into the banking system was nearly impossible. Every attempt risked seizure or arrest. But for a certain breed of broker, this pileup was opportunity. These intermediaries, mostly Chinese underground bankers, built their own networks to solve the problem. They matched cartel dollars in the US with wealthy Chinese clients, desperate for funds abroad. The mechanics were simple, but invisible. A cartel courier would hand off hundreds of thousands in cash to a trusted broker, and the broker would log the amount in a shadow ledger, an off-the-books account. Back in China, the broker's partner credited the same value in yuan to a client's account. No wire transfers, no official record, no questions asked. The dollars, now untraceable, waited to be laundered. For the cartels, risk shifted off the street. For the brokers, the next step was finding a place where bulk cash could quietly disappear into the system, disguised as luck or skill at the tables. Inside Wynn, Las Vegas, the laundering process ran on a simple, repeatable track. Cash from brokers, sometimes delivered in quiet back corridors, sometimes left in hotel rooms, never saw the main casino floor. Instead, it moved straight to private salons, the exclusive high-limit spaces reserved for the casino's most valued guests. Here, the cash was exchanged for chips, often in sums that triggered no immediate scrutiny, thanks to the salon's elevated thresholds. The VIP would play just enough to generate a believable record. Nothing wild, no massive swings, just steady action. After a brief session, the same chips were taken to the cashier's cage. Wynn's policy allowed a player to request a cashier's check, even for large amounts, as long as the chips had been in play and the paperwork looked clean. In a matter of hours, dirty cash morphed into a casino-issued check. No longer suspicious stacks of bills, but an official instrument from one of the Strip's most respected names. For the brokers, this was the finish line. Cartel money reborn as legitimate winnings, ready to move anywhere in the world. Transaction logs inside Wynn told a story no one wanted to read. Over and over, compliance officers spotted the same patterns. VIP guests, listing vague or modest jobs, yet moving millions in cash. The money almost always arrived through a handful of intermediaries, not through transparent bank wires. Play sessions looked odd. Short bursts at the tables, quick cash outs. then back again only when new cash landed. On paper, these were just lucky streaks. In reality, they matched textbook warning signs for money laundering. Each time a case crossed the threshold, compliance staff filed a suspicious activity report, called SAR. This is a confidential notice banks and casinos must send to federal regulators when they spot transactions that look like criminal activity. Wynn's records show suspicious activity reports dated as early as 2011, with internal memos warning about the same repeat players and go-betweens. One redacted report described a client with no visible business moving over $4 million in 6 months, always through the same contact. The warnings stacked up, but the pipeline kept running. The paper trail was growing, even if few cared to follow it. VIP hosts at Wynn Las Vegas did not just welcome high rollers. They chased them. Their paychecks depended on it. Every major player brought in meant a bigger bonus, not just from tips but from official commission structures tied to how much a client wagered. The more a guest played, the higher the host's cut. Some hosts earned extra for keeping VIP players loyal, their annual compensation quietly swelling with each return visit, and every million cycled through the tables. Asking tough questions about the source of funds threatened that pipeline. A single complaint from a high roller could mean a lost client, a lost bonus, and a reputation as someone who made business harder for everyone else. Management, on paper, promoted strict compliance. But behind closed doors, numbers ruled. Hosts learned early: keep the action flowing, keep guests happy, and let compliance staff handle the paperwork if they had to. The system rewarded silence and results. As red flags multiplied in back offices, the casino floor stayed bright, busy, and profitable. Outside the building, though, unfamiliar names and patterns were starting to draw attention from people who did not care about host metrics or casino profits. At financial crime desks in New York, San Francisco, and Washington, analysts began to notice the same names cropping up in reports from different banks and casinos. Each institution had filed its own suspicious activity reports. One flagged a cashier's check, another a burst of cash deposits, a third a wire to a luxury condo. Individually, the transactions seemed unconnected, but as FinCEN's databases filled, a pattern took shape. The same Chinese intermediaries and high-roller clients appeared again and again, a repeating presence tied to large cash activity in Las Vegas, especially at Wynn. Analysts cross-linked those suspicious activity reports from opposite coasts and found that the same phone numbers, shell companies, and travel records kept circling back to the Strip. The data showed not just isolated incidents, but a repeating system. Cash from border cities, intermediaries with no visible business, and casino chips turning into millions in clean funds. The scale was impossible to ignore. What started as scattered red flags became a map of a laundering pipeline, visible only when the pieces were assembled across agencies. Whistleblower documents began to surface: internal memos, compliance emails, and redacted suspicious activity reports. Investigative journalists pieced together the story, tracing cash deliveries and host communications through leaked files and off-the-record interviews. In early 2023, a major outlet published a front-page exposé, laying out how cartel money and Chinese underground bankers had quietly flowed through Wynn Las Vegas's high-limit rooms. The article quoted former compliance staff, cited subpoenaed emails, and included snapshots of internal warnings. Overnight, what had been a hidden pattern became headline news, forcing law enforcement and regulators to move from quiet suspicion to public action. Federal subpoenas landed on Wynn's legal team like a stack of chips. Investigators demanded years of internal emails, host communications, and every cage log tied to flagged VIPs. Prosecutors traced the timing. Cash deliveries were logged at 10:42 p.m. Chip purchases followed minutes later. Cashier's checks were issued before sunrise. Host emails revealed advanced coordination with intermediaries, sometimes referencing specific player arrivals and cash needs. Compliance memos flagged the same names, yet transaction logs showed those players kept receiving access. Piece by piece, the evidence mapped out a deliberate system, not isolated incidents, but coordinated facilitation, documented in Wynn's own files and time-stamped records. Wynn Las Vegas agreed to forfeit over $130 million, admitting in the official consent order that it conspired with unlicensed money transmitters, businesses that move funds outside legal banking channels. The settlement stopped short of a criminal conviction, but the casino's own words made clear. It allowed illicit money to flow for its own gain, trading compliance for profit. Today, Las Vegas casinos still process billions in foreign cash each year, often with limited scrutiny. As global crime adapts, financial loopholes remain open. The true cost isn't just lost dollars. It's trust in institutions meant to protect us. The real gamble is pretending the game has changed.